Good evening and welcome everyone to the Hog Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap Roastery Studios, part of the Believe and Buzz Radio Network, where you can hear us each week on 106.7 Buzz 2 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I am Porter Hayes. Alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall. On tonight's show, we will talk about Arkansas's road woes, losing to Georgia, Vanderbilt coming up, quick turnaround, college football national championship coming up, and we'll talk some NFL playoffs, and we'll touch on is Nick Saban salty of the Big Ten and more. Brief touch on again. We'll mention with Hog HQ live coming on Sunday nights. We're on Monday nights. We'll briefly touch on the basketball game, but just kind of go over what y'all talked about last night with the game, 90-76 loss. It just seemed like another slow start on the road. And I put it out there. Should they bring Malik Thomas off the bench? Is it time to start calling for that? Is that a thing that Arkansas needs to look at? Because you can't fall into the hole on the road like that week in and week out.
I'm not sure if bringing him or making him a starter would benefit anything. I don't mind him still coming off the bench. We've had slow starts, and we've put ourselves in holes that have been hard to dig out of. But at the same time, they came back from 19 down and ended up tying the game, at 68-70. And then Vanderbilt went on a 20-6 run to end the game.
Ooh.
So it's one of those things that I don't necessarily think that it would be. I have nothing against trying it though. Maybe you can get an offensive spark early. I think one of the bigger issues that we have is still it's kind of with the inside. I'm kind of in this boat of putting Nick Pringle on the bench and letting Malik Ewan start.
Yeah.
Just to maybe mix things up a little bit. This was a game that, you're on the road in the SEC. It's tough to win. Did I think we would lose by 14? No, I didn't. But I'm still not going to, fret and freak out and whatever else, obviously with Vanderbilt coming up tomorrow, that's another big game. Vanderbilt lost 2 games last week. So they're going to be looking to dig themselves out of the hole. It sucks. It was an ugly game. There's still a lot of things to be worked on. Once again, after Brazil had a good game, previous game comes out with 8 points. I think we out rebounded Georgia, I believe, by 8 rebounds, 43-35.
Yep.
But I'm sitting here looking at it, and Nick Pringle, 19 minutes, 2 rebounds. Trevin Brazil, 25 minutes, 2 rebounds. They've got to be getting more rebounds when they're in the game. And it's something, Acuff had 6 rebounds. Billy Richmond had 8 rebounds. Malik Ewan, 7. Malik Thomas, 6. So, your guards led you in rebounding. And that I feel like is a big issue. Then, we had 4 turnovers the game before, turning around to 18 turnovers against Georgia. It was definitely not our day. I'm all about mixing things up, though. So if they wanted to try Malik Thomas or move Ewan to the starting positions, I'm all for it, because at this point, these guys are going to get their minutes no matter what. So if you need to mix up the rotation, go for it.
Yeah.
I just wonder if you bring Malik Thomas in to start, are you going to have that spark coming off the bench, or are you going to need it at that point?
The thing I see it is, you can tell, and early on in the year, we're like, okay, Malik Thomas in basketball, you can be one of these players that play well off the bench. You're a better player off the bench. But to me, when you go on the road, and this is where things could start to change. If Malik just knows that he should be a starter, and he's seeing these slow starts, are you going to start when he comes off the bench? Start now where he's like 9 points, 4 of 17 shooting. 1 of 6 from the 3. Had a bad game. Is that, and this speculation, just hearsay, just for discussion, is that going to start wearing on him, knowing he should be out there if they're following these holes when he could be starting and possibly get into that rhythm and them not go on a 20-8 run or 20-5 run. Another thing, this is where I will go off and be devil's advocate. If he's causing turnovers and he only had one turnover, but if you're getting 29 points, Georgia got 29 points off turnovers. So you had 18 turnovers and they got 29 points off of that. Almost. So you're almost scoring off of every turnover Arkansas had. That's where another problem was, because you tied up, then you're losing by 14. So I know a lot of that's probably fouling at the end, getting free throws and you're not hitting your shots and they just tally on, tack on to the lead. But it's at the point because we have to start saying these things now because of what we said last week of there's no excuses. You got to fix these things. You can't be 3-2 going into the season right now. You've got to find ways to where you're not laying an egg on the road. And I listened a little bit of Hog HQ live last night. You said it perfectly. You can't start banking on splitting these weeks. You got to start winning, go 2-0 in these weeks. It's almost like these in baseball. You got to start sweeping some of these series. But back to your point of your guards getting most of the rebounds. That's like your safeties and your corners getting majority of your tackles. It's the same thing. You can't have, if your safeties are getting your leading tackler, there's something wrong with your defense. Same thing. If your guards are getting the majority of your rebounds, something is wrong, especially how lengthy that, Cyril with 7 blocks. I mean, they were big inside and they were making a huge impact on the game.
And, it was one of those things seeing Cyril in the game. He was close to following John Calipari to Arkansas because he had previously committed to him at Kentucky, and seeing him play. And, this is a guy that he still has stuff to work on. He does foul a lot. He got away with a lot of no calls.
Yeah.
But when he was in the game, you knew he was in the game. He was making his presence felt. And, I still think one of the plays of the game was Billy Richmond's block on him getting up like he did. But it's a bit frustrating. Like I said, I'm still not gonna woe is me, world's crumbling, sky is falling. But no, they've got to figure something out. You've got another big game tomorrow. I'm still standing on Vanderbilt hasn't really played anybody up until they got to SEC play. So, but I think Vanderbilt's going to have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder after dropping 2 straight. And like we've talked about, your Arkansas, it's a home game. You've got John Calipari, targets on your back. So, we'll see what happens tomorrow night, 8 p.m. I believe it's on ESPN. But, I'm ready for it. It's one of those things that we just hope that, kind of like after the Auburn loss, and yes, Vanderbilt's obviously a much better team than South Carolina is, but you just hope you come out with the same intensity that you had against South Carolina as tomorrow night against Vanderbilt.
Yeah. And you have to turn around quick. You got Vanderbilt talking about high scoring. Nevertheless, if they're a fraud or not, we'll find out. But they're still averaging 91 points a game. They have Tyler Tanner, 17.4 points a game, Duke Miles, 17.3, and then you have Tyler Nickel, 14.7 points a game. So they do like to shoot the three a lot. You have, Louise, Tyler Nichols shot 133s.
Yeah.
Made 61 of them.
And just think, it's one of those things. There's 3-point shooters have good nights in Bud Walton Arena. And this right here, we get that Malik Thomas shoots a lot, but he wouldn't be shooting a lot if he didn't have the green light from John Calipari.
Yeah.
He has the green light because you know what? The game before he went 8 for 9 field goals, 5 for 5 from 3. So he's going to shoot whenever he sees the opening, and John Calipari has told him to do so. So that's one of those. I'm not going to knock him on shooting too much. I mean, it's the same thing with earlier in the season. People were knocking Darius Acuff for having 4 turnovers in a game. Same games that he's putting up 20 plus. So it's one of those. If we had won the game, we wouldn't be saying these things. We wouldn't be saying that he shoots too much.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Because if we were talking, if we flip flopped him and Acuff, I mean, Acuff shot the ball
16
60 more
times.
times.
Yeah.
60 more times. He shot at 79, and he's 9 of 28 from the three. So it's funny, and this is all of us. I'm not pointing out to the fans. I'm saying we're all guilty of this. It's funny when you say that when Darius Acuff's 9 of 28 in SEC, and I'm going off SEC stats now, non-con out. This is just strictly when we're talking about SEC play, your points per game. Darius Acuff's 22.4 points per game in SEC play, 9 of 28 from the three-point line. Malik Thomas is 14 to 27 from three. So he had a horrible game last night, but he's still 14 to 27 3-point line, and he's 29 to 63, so 46% total, but he's shooting 51% from the 3-point line. So, I mean, give or take, that's what happens when you lose. And that's why it's the point you got to keep winning, because you're going to have these type of games. When you go to Vanderbilt, let me see if I can get back to their SEC stats. I don't know if it does or not. It might just give them their
season stats.
Oh, here we go. SEC. So they're averaging 91. Now they're at 84. So they have dropped a significant bit, but you still have Tyler Tanner, 21 points a game, shooting 22 threes. Tyler Nichols is going to be at the one. I'm telling you, he's only averaging 14 points a game, but he's shot 31 threes in SEC play. And they're really good at shooting. You know, you're talking about their top players from the free throw line. So keep them away from the 3-point line and keep them off the free throw line, because their top guys are 88%, 80%, 95, and 90.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the key to the game. This is not going to be an easy game.
No, it's not for either team. Both are going to be coming out to prove something. So, you know, it's one of those that I don't feel like, you know, Vanderbilt's got Mississippi State after Arkansas. That's not one that I see themselves looking ahead. We'll see what Arkansas play. They play LSU on Saturday. Yeah, you know, LSU might be last in the conference right now, but at the same time, LSU's still got a squad that can put up points, you know. So we'll see what happens. Like we've talked about before, the last week or so, you know, Kentucky's put a couple wins together, and, you know, Kentucky's getting things in gear leading up to January 31st. So we'll see. The
good thing is, between now and between the Mississippi State game, you got a week off between the Kentucky Mississippi State game. You have 3 or 4 games at home. So if you're really going to start banking on you playing like crap on the road, this is the perfect chance to get out ahead of it, because you've only got one road game between now and Mississippi State on the 7th of February. So use that game at OU as a buffer of, all right, we're going to get this fixed. We're going to get a road win, because after Kentucky, you go Mississippi State, then at LSU, before you have Auburn, then at Alabama. So the next month, the next month is going to be important of, where do we want to be mid-February? Where do we want to be crunch time before? And this season's going to go by fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your last game at Missouri, March 7th. So I know we're talking, the whole point of SEC play in March Madness, this month is going to be your most important stretch, because are you banking on that Kentucky game? How much are you putting into that, or how much are you putting into making a run in March? And yes, poster, Brazil.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's one of those, can he and can Arkansas put multiple games together?
Yep.
As Trevor Brazil, obviously, hey, we need to see you show up more than once. But, with Arkansas, can they put 2 solid weeks of games together? We talk about in baseball, like, winning the series, because, 3-game series, you want to win 2 out of 3. So we're cool with that. I think Arkansas's got to stop splitting the weeks. So can we get 2 solid weeks and go 4-0? I think we're going to have to at some point just to stay ahead of the rest of the SEC, because as we get further down the road into mid to late February and into March, you're going to have those teams that are still going to be fighting and scrapping for bids into the NCAA tournament. So I think that now is the best time to get ahead of that as other teams start ramping up before the SEC tournament. I'm not saying you need to coast by any means, but pad it a little bit now just for the end of the regular season.
Well, in that, you keep coasting, and if you keep playing like crap on the road, you're going to wind up with a 7-10 game or an 8-9 game playing for playing one seed second round. And if you're playing like that, you're going to get stuck with these 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock start times on a Thursday or a Friday on the road, neutral site. So it's going to be, you've got to get this fixed because the expectations are higher. It's Sweet 16 and further for this team, for my expectations for this team, because guess what? We know Malik Thomas, we know Darius Acuff are gone. What are you bringing in to replace that? This is go time, because if you don't make the Sweet 16 this year, and you're going to have to welcome all the hate that you get from the Kentucky fan base about John Calipari, you're going to have to welcome all the national hate you get because the expectations. You're going to have to start accepting that, because this is the year to get to the point to where you're progressing, you're getting better as a team. And if you don't make the Sweet 16 this year, you're going to start getting those questions. And then how are you going to overcome that? Are you going to bounce back and make a run? Because if you don't, and with this fan base and how our expectations are and how the results go every single year, you're going to start losing hope. Now we're only leaning on baseball to get you where you want to go.
Yeah. And, here's the thing. Kentucky fans are yelling at their team. They're going to yell at us even louder.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. I mean, they're not content with John Pelphrey 2.0 over there in Lexington and Mark Pope. So let's not give them any more ammunition, because it's one of those that they'll quickly turn their. I mean, he already lives rent free. So I don't know. I see this team turning it on. I don't know when. But I do still think that this is an Elite Eight or better team. It's just a matter of like I said, they've got to put some solid weeks together and stop splitting the weeks every week.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you look at Kentucky 3-game winning streak and they're beating, we talk about LSU. I mean, it took a miracle for them to beat LSU, but they did. So you're looking at that LSU game of they played Kentucky to the end, and we're seeing what's happening with these teams starting off 0-2 or 2-2, coming in and playing Arkansas. They're giving them their best shot. And if you don't start getting some of these road wins, some of these home games are going to start slipping. You could go undefeated, but it's not a guarantee you're going to win all your home games. So either you've got to guarantee that you're going to win all your home games, but still, you've got to find a way to start winning some of these road games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see what he can do. It's one of those. Tomorrow's going to be tough, but I think they can pull it out. I think ESPN Analytics has it 51-49 in favor of Vanderbilt. So if you're going to allow Vanderbilt's 3-point scorer to have a night and have his way to 3-point line, then Malik Thomas or Darius Acuff are going to have to come with it tomorrow night. I think tomorrow night's a game that Trevin Brazil's got to find himself. We've talked about before having the 4+ guys in double figures. At this point, I'm thinking that we're going to need another, 20+ from Acuff and Malik Thomas, and then 15+ from a couple others.
Yeah.
So.
It's proven. You look at the stat sheet. I mean, you had 2 guys double digits and then 8 and 9. You got to have more, but I think you had it right there with Ewan instead of Pringle. I think that would be a good buffer, because there was talks of them both having a great game and playing together. I don't think right now you can afford to do that, because you don't have enough scoring, and you're not guaranteed scoring from both of them to where you can run let's go Acuff, Malik, and Brazil, and those 2. You've got to. The key to them playing is them doing it, but yet you've got to be consistent on where's your guy Brazil. Talk about expectations and talk about this is it for him. There's talks of him being All-American type caliber player, a leader. You can't go ghost like that if you're supposed to be a leader of this team.
100%. So he's got to find himself, get Coach Richardson at practice to, getting these guys a little bit with the defensive mindset and whatnot, and turn things around tomorrow night.
Yeah. Most importantly, you pick the perfect week if you're not gonna split. You go 2-0 because both games are at home. So Vandy tomorrow night at 8 on ESPN. And then you have Saturday 7:30 on the SEC network against LSU. So get it rolling, and we'll see what happens. But what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Hear word from our sponsors. After we get back, we'll touch on the good stuff. National championship coming up. It should be anytime now, 6:30, but it probably gets started about 6:45. NFL playoffs, and we'll talk some fun. Saban talk about the portal and paying players. We'll come right back after a break.
Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South First Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need, whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck. Plus, our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together.
Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Look no further than ATU Ozark Campus. As a 2-year satellite campus of Arkansas Tech University, we're dedicated to a quality workforce education, industry partnerships for in-demand jobs, and tailored paths for success. Our programs are led by industry professionals. Whether it's a certificate or you're aiming for a graduate degree, ATU Ozark has you covered. Visit our website at www.atu.edu/Ozark or contact us at 479-667-2117. Your future begins here. Welcome to Ozark Area Chamber of Commerce, where our mission is simple: encourage, promote, and aid an enduring environment of shared economic opportunity and civic development for the Ozark, Arkansas area. Whether you're a local business owner or a resident, we've got something for you. Shop our unique local businesses, explore the beauty of Ozark, and savor local flavors and find cozy accommodations. Join us in building a stronger community. And to learn more, contact us at 479-667-2525. Remember, together we thrive.
And welcome back to the Hog Talk podcast. Right now, we'll start second segment off with the NFL playoffs. The national championship game is set to kick off in mere minutes. We'll give you up-to-date scores while we're on the broadcast. But, Adam, Super Bowl is near. And last night, you've seen a couple of good games, but then you've seen some not so good games. It depends on if you're the Texans or the Niners, if you want to say that. But no, Rams, Bears overtime, great game. Bills, Broncos come down to a controversial interception. I'd love to get your take on that. What you thought, was that an interception? Was that a catch? And then you had a clear I believe I can't remember what game it was. Where a similar situation, and they gave him the catch. So, what was your take on that Broncos Bills game?
Broncos Bills game. It's one of those I picked Denver to win, so I was glad that they did. The interception in that game that I forget however they called it. I feel like they were making up rules as they went along because there were similar interceptions in the Denver Buffalo game as there was in the Chicago LA game.
Yes,
but it's one of those that it was like it was the same or very similar interceptions that they rolled opposite ways. So I feel like that here we are again with the NFL, and it's the same thing in college football. There's not always a clear answer, and I don't really know. Do I think that Sean McDermott deserved to be fired in Buffalo for losing that? No, he's 98-50 in Buffalo, and they fired him. I think they're going to regret it. It's one of those that Bo Nix ended up having an ankle fracture or whatever it was, so he will not play the rest of the playoffs. They'll go with Jarrett Stidham in Denver, another former Auburn quarterback. CJ Stroud, I feel like, is still trying to find his same year one magic, and he's not. If I was the defense, I'd be looking at him. 4 interceptions in that game. Absolutely horrendous. But the playoffs in the NFL have been good. We've had good games for the most part. So who knows, really? Do I think that Buffalo should have won that game? I do. I thought if Buffalo was going to have their chance any season, it was going to be this season to potentially finally win a Super Bowl. But, it is what it is. I honestly thought that Chicago had that game last night. I thought they were given the chances for Caleb Williams to have some magic, and it just didn't happen. I know there are a lot of Caleb Williams haters out there, but at the same time, I think he kind of almost proved himself to kind of have that clutch factor, and it didn't work out for him. So, like I said, we've had good games. I don't think you could ask for any more in the scheme or the grand scene of good games. I know that all we would really want and hope for is the Ravens to be in it and get back to the Super Bowl, but don't see that happening necessarily anytime soon. But no, they've been good overall. So I think the bigger question is, hey, with New England, if New England makes it to the Super Bowl, so you've already, Tom Brady won a Super Bowl post New England with Tampa Bay, and now Vrabel's on the cusp of taking them back to the Super Bowl. North Carolina sucks. I think this just kind of shows that Bill Belichick maybe isn't as great as once believed.
Yeah. But it's also showing that college football is having an impact on the NFL. Because, me and a buddy of mine was having a talk about this. There's going to be no more Marv Levy's. The Bills going to the Super Bowl 4 times in a row and he would be fired after the second one because he didn't win it. And we're getting to this. You're not going to see a Dan Marino's going all these. You're not just going to accept greatness. Everybody in the comment section when I posted that about this guy's record, we're talking about McDermott's record. Outside of, I started in 2019, 10-6, 13-3. 11-6, 13-3, 11-6, 13-4, and 12-5. That's his record since 2019. 662 overall percentage. But it's the fact that because they're not getting to an NFC championship game or they're not getting to the Super Bowl, that seems like we're talking about ring culture. That's where we are now. In the sports, if you're not winning a ring, nothing else matters. And it's going to hurt Dave Van Horn because if he don't win a ring, that's what's going to keep him from that status that we want. But does that define who they are? Because you look at last night's game. What if they don't call those 2 pass interferences in a row? What if they do call that a catch instead of an interception? The man still has his job. So how is that his fault when you have those circumstances? Because all the comments are like, well, they got to win. They can't win the big game. You put that on him instead of the quarterback who can't win it, but he'll outstay. And not to pick on your team, it happens on a lot of them, but there's a lot of people. You see all these quarterbacks that go through these cycles and they keep the quarterback. It happens in all these teams is you're going to fire a coach until you find the right coach for that right quarterback who's making hundreds of millions of dollars instead of trying to figure out, well, is it the quarterback or is it the coach? It's always, we're going to just cycle out the coaches or the coordinators until we make it fit who we're riding with on the field.
Bringing up rings, do Music City Bowl rings count? I mean, they're giving rings out for those. So,
yes.
No, but I get it. We're in an instant gratification world. And like we've talked about before, it's what have you done for me lately? But, bringing up the quarterbacks and this, that, and the other in college football and having a direct impact on the NFL. I think a lot of it too, you have to look at it trickles all the way down. You have with transfer portal and such. You don't have guys developing in one system, or you don't have guys developing in general. It's where can I hop to? Where am I going to get playing time, starting time right now? And I get that it was systems, but I still think back to like Jackson Dart's John Gruden quarterback camp episode where, he asked him for a snap count and it was just a clap. And I think a lot of that comes all the way back to player development. It's a guy that doesn't know how to it because he's never had to do it. And I just think we live in a world now. You have to go on pure athleticism and not football IQ. And, we see the same thing in basketball, like we've talked about before with the travel ball and the circuit ball and all that the basketball IQ has gone down. You're going purely off talent and athleticism.
Or shooting up 75 threes a game.
Yeah. And, it's the scapegoat in a lot of this is going to be the head coaches. Do you want to roll with your quarterback that you're paying $40 to $50 million a season? Or are you going to roll with the head coach? And we see most of the time, we're going to go with the quarterback. So it's a completely different world these days. You're not going to go with your quarterback throwing 5,000 yards a season or 4,000, 4,500, whatever it is. You're going to get rid of you're going to go with the quarterback and get rid of the coach when it comes down to it.
Well, you got to stop relying on freshmen. Look at tonight's game. Carson Beck joking about graduating college 2 years ago. It's funny. You're pursuing a graduate degree. I mean, I'm all for players being able to transfer and get paid. But if you're up there mocking like, I graduated college 2 years ago. And then on the Indiana side, 24 and 25-year-old players, you've got to stop relying on freshmen to come win you a national championship. You've got to stop relying on rookie. Look at, talk about Caleb Williams. Yes, we gave him a lot of crap. He's a rookie trying to lead a franchise. I know Daniels almost made it to the Super Bowl, but look at Trevor Lawrence, how long it's taken him to get to the point to where he is. I mean, it takes time there's a big gap. It's hard enough to come out of high school and lead an SEC team or a Big Ten team or a ACC team to a national championship as a freshman. It's hard. It takes time to develop. You said it perfectly. We're not doing that. So you're setting them up for failure when it gets to the NFL. There's just too much expectations when it comes to when you come right into the league. And that's why they lowered the rookie contracts on these quarterbacks, because they were throwing so much money, but they still are. And you got to realize it's going to take you a year or two to develop into an NFL type quarterback to where, but it goes to the coaches. There's just, you said the now, we want it now. We want the coaches to win now or win a Super Bowl now. And if you get to the divisional round, well, now you have to get to the NFC AFC championship game. If you do that, then you've got to win us a Super Bowl. If you don't, you're out.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's one of those that I think in the NFL, it's kind of like we've talked about this with college football, and I think we're going to potentially start seeing it more, possibly in the NFL too. It's like if you're not in college, like we've talked about, if you're not getting to the playoffs or sniffing the playoffs, within every 3 years, kind of like we talked about after talking with Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered, move on from them.
Yep.
And I think that in the NFL world, that like we saw in Buffalo, playoffs isn't enough. The AFC Championship isn't enough. It's getting to the Super Bowl, and I think that you roll with, Buffalo's like, hey, we've got our franchise quarterback. Something's got to change. It's going to be the head coach.
Yeah.
And, Baltimore, they went through multiple coordinator changes over the years. And it's one of those things that they had to look at John Harbaugh and say, hey, we've got to make a change here. Because we're going to keep Lamar Jackson. So it's you or him at this point. And that's the decision that was made.
Well,
there's too much invested in these quarterbacks. Yeah,
I mean, Dallas.
Dallas.
That's a perfect example.
You're rolling with Dak Prescott until the legs fall off.
Yeah.
So at the same time, like we've all talked about, Jerry Jones needs to hand the reins over because you want a yes man as a head coach. And so, we'll see what happens, but there's so much drop off in these quarterbacks, talent wise, IQ wise, everything between college and the NFL. I mean, a lot of these quarterbacks, especially the ones taken in the first round, I mean, they're expected to come in and immediately be able to start, and they're not. They may be forced to, but in all reality, they shouldn't be because they're not ready for it. And even if you go back to, Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, they did the right thing there by sitting him behind Brett Favre.
Mm-hmm.
But too much anymore, they think if you're a quarterback and you're drafted in the first few rounds or whatever, like you need to be ready to go. And more often than not, the players would benefit sitting behind the quarterback. I mean, even if you look at Baltimore, I mean, Lamar Jackson was not an immediate starter. He sat behind Joe Flacco until it was time. And I think that needs to be how it is more often.
Well, look at the greats. Look at, you go back to Steve Young behind Joe Montana. You look at Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, behind, I don't know why his name's
Drew Bledsoe.
Mm-hmm. A lot of these guys, and you ask Tom Brady, him going to Michigan and riding the pine and earning it, and then sitting behind Drew Bledsoe made him what he is because it's this, everything's given to you. You're going to a team and you're automatically the guy. You're not earning your spot. That is like earning a win, because if you had everything given to you, when you come into these tough games and you fold, you're not taught adversity. You're not taught to grind. You're just having everything given to you. And until people start really, truly earning things, and I'll bring Indiana into it, until you start earning your keep and you're taking over a team that was never good at football, and now you're sitting 15-0 playing for a national championship, you're earning it because nothing was given to you. You have no 5-star players. You have a coach that he is talking the talk and he's walking the walk. And we'll see what happens with Miami. They were counted out. They wouldn't even play in the ACC championship game. And I love the fact that the SEC, this is the third year without it. And, you have Saban coming out saying, well, of course they're benefiting from the NIL because that's the only way they're going to get good, because you have to pay them to go there. And it's funny, he's still talking about this when NIL ran him out. He didn't want the level playing field. He wanted to have the stockpiled. You wanted to have all the 4 stars. You wanted to have, you're making $11 million. And you and your wife sat there and said, the players don't need us no more. We're done. I know he will probably go down as the greatest coach of all time, but he lost a little bit of respect when he ducked out like that and made those comments. Well, they don't need us no more. I'm out. And it's good to see other teams. It's good to see Miami and Indiana here, because guess what? It's going to make the SEC reevaluate what they're doing, and they're going to have to adversity. They're finally having to see some adversity instead of playing in a 2-team BCS or a 4-team playoff. Now you have a 12-team, and everybody in the 12-team playoff can pay players. It's an even field now.
You don't get the, benefit of the doubt of just having the voters put you in like we had in the BCS. It's now, playoff form. So it's who's going to beat who. I get where he was coming from, kind of with the, that they don't need us anymore. It's time to we've seen more often that, like, we've seen a lot of the older school coaches. I mean, they don't want to adapt to the, some of them adapted to the portal, but then you bring in NIL and that's a whole nother animal. And it's difficult for them. It's one of those that, hey, we all know that you were paying players under the table. And now that it's legal and everybody's doing it, you don't have that advantage anymore. But to come out, you don't know why players would want to go play North and this, that, and the other, whether it's weather or whether it's this and that. I'm sorry, but have you been to Tuscaloosa? It's not that great of a place either. There's nothing that's really enticing to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, other than
Saban's gone. That's it. That's the thing. Saban's gone. And you have a coach. I brought him up many times. Dabo, same way. He's still at Clemson. But really, if you look at Clemson, the town, who wants to go there? I mean, the town's 13,000 people, if that. It's a small town. There's nothing around it but a lake. You got to drive an hour and a half to Atlanta. There's nothing there. And these coaches, again, that were entitled, they're used to getting all the players, everything handed to them. And even in Clemson's aspect of playing in a weaker conference, you knew that you could play an SEC team to start the season. And then you had South Carolina. And if you went undefeated or lost a game, you still had enough to win because you're going to win the conference. So that's why it is. It makes me laugh because we teach players about loyalty and earning and all that when the coaches aren't doing it. They just want everything given to them so they can feel good about themselves and make them see like they're the best coach. But when you're getting all the 4 stars and 5 stars, it's easy to do that. But now it's different because getting 4 stars and 5 stars out of high school is nothing. It means nothing anymore. High school rankings mean nothing on the grand aspect of how you evaluate your team anymore because of the transfer portal.
The transfer portal is more important than high school recruiting because most of the time your high school players are no longer, they're not going to play at the school that recruited them, or they're not going to be, that's why, like, with all the talk on Hank Hendricks last week, Fayetteville quarterback that's going to be going to Arkansas early. It's one of those that I don't, and this is no knock at him. It's just the way the world of college football is today. It won't shock me if we never see him on the field in a Razorback uniform, because it's one of those that, okay, he's going to come and he's going to potentially sit for 2 years, at least 1 year. He's going to sit his freshman year. And then what? Go on to somewhere else, unless the rules suddenly change within 2 years, which they're not going to in that aspect. When I see all these high school recruits come in, I'm like, it's great and all, but are they going to be here the year after? And I know that there was just, the coaching change and whatnot, but Arkansas is bringing in 38 players within the transfer portal, or 36 players, or whatever it's up to. And this is what we have to get used to. For years it was hard. Or there was a lot of fans that were outspoken with one and done players in basketball. They didn't like it because you don't learn their names, you don't this, you don't that. Well, it's like that in college football too, because of the transfer portal. I mean, we've got 30-some, almost 40 new players coming in the transfer portal. Transfer portal is more important than high school recruiting because they're players that can have an immediate impact that you don't necessarily have to develop. And like we've all talked about before, there is no more loyalty. It's all about the paycheck.
No, because
you'll
pay Hendricks. Yeah. You're going to pay him, and this is
it's $500,000 for 2 years, so $1 million for 2 years that he's supposedly going to be getting.
And what I was told by someone close to the program is they did that. You get him cheap because when he goes out and he starts getting more offers and he balls out at Fayetteville his senior year, and you can't afford him. So you get him while he's cheap, and you're his offer. He comes to Fayetteville, but your bank, the loyalty is, well, you're playing, you're spending. It's a gamble. You're going to give him 500,000 or whatever the money is for 2 years or whatever, but then he bolts. You're banking on him developing into your starter, but you have to do that now. We're going to start seeing more of that. Start keeping your eye on. We're talking about these reclassification of players. Start keeping an eye on these players that do that, because these schools that want him, what if he don't pan out? You've wasted money on hopes of him developing into a good quarterback.
Mm-hmm. It's the world we live in. I mean, and it's you have all these hopes that he's going to develop. He's going to sit and learn for a year or two, and then be ready to go be your starter. We're not in that world anymore.
No,
it's the time is now world, and that was something too. That this came from. Let me find that stat real quick. It's from Recruits CFB on Twitter, and they were quoting Josh Pate on this. But according to Josh Pate, many players who have been entering the portal have been asking to return to their former teams just to be rejected. One of the many consequences of entering the transfer portal to chase a bag instead of staying and developing. This will be a very interesting phenomenon in the portal, as many of these kids will ultimately not even sign to another team. 30% of kids will never find a school to transfer and will drop down to Division II instead.
Good.
Yeah. And I was looking at it, there's more players, in the portal than there are scholarships available for all of college football.
Good, because here's the thing. You're going to learn out the hard way. You don't always get what you want. And, again, we've always said we're always on the stance of players getting paid and going the right fit. But if it's purely motivated on not the right fit and you're just chasing the money is not going to get you happiness. It is not going to be all end all. Look at what LSU is doing right now, reportedly 40 to 50 on their roster. Okay, you better win a national championship next year. You better go undefeated. That I don't care. You're spending all this money. You're getting all these top players. You better not lose a game. You better win a national championship next year. That is the expectation. So guess what? That is going to be an expectation, and you're going to get all the social media scrutiny. You better go out and win it all, because you're grabbing all the best players. and that's where we're at. You have to. And back on the Hank Hendricks thing, I hope it works out. But you're getting in scary territory of you're paying a player that might not ever see the field. How is that name, image, and likeness? And then if he does and he starts turning the starter, well, then he's going to demand a contract. Well, what if you can't afford to get that? Where's this money that we supposedly have had?
So that's for the 38 guys that they got out of the portal. Who knows at this point?
No. Well, game is just underway. Miami has the ball on the 37-second one. Who do you have tonight? I know we don't have to go off your pick.
No, I think it's going to be Indiana. I've talked to some today that truly think that Miami's defense is going to pull this one out. I think that a lot. Cignetti mixed with Indiana having the oldest roster. I think kind of going back to like college basketball, Kentucky, John Calipari in Oakland, bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds against 24, 25, 26-year-olds. And Indiana's got the men in this. I just think that they're too tough of a team this year.
Well, I'll say this. If Miami wins, somebody better keep an eye on Michael Irvin.
Oh, he's going to go crazy.
Tony Montana. He is going to have a pile.
Yeah.
It's going to be insane. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I'm with you. I think Indiana pulls this out, and I want them to win. And if either will win, Miami wins, it's cool because ACC. ACC can win a national championship, and because the SEC don't want Indiana to win because they don't want Indiana winning, and now we've got 3 Big Ten national championships in a row. So, and then they'll revert back to what about the last 20? Well, we're in a new era of college football. You can't base the BCS era off the college football playoff era, and you can't go CFP4 to now we're at 12. This is a new era, a new judge, and Big Ten's ruling it right now. So we'll see how it plays out.
We'll see. Hopefully, I just in this sense, I have no dog in the fight. I just want a good game.
Yeah, same. Same. Because you can't, again, I would love for Miami to win because of the ACC, but it's hard not to pull for Cignetti and what he's done. And for them to go out the way they did last year and everybody calling them a fluke, well, here they are. But it's where it's easy to get to the top, climb to the top, than staying at the top.
Yeah.
So once you're up there, you got to stay there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
So
Matt's chiming in here. I'm going to have my second perfect week in a row and still be in last place.
my bad, man. That's all I'm striving for is not to get last place. So there's always, I think
The
you
champ
pretty
is
much got
here.
it wrapped up, right?
It'll still be close. DP went up or got closer another game or so.
Did
this
he go
week.
Miami this one?
He went
Did
Miami
go-
this
okay,
one. So
this could be a pivotal.
this could pull him within 1 or 2 games of me.
I think you sandbag it since Matt's here. He's probably watching. You sandbag it to get close, but you've got the. It's like you're the SEC of.
Well, they both think that I secretly moonlight it ever in Vegas and just come back like on the weekends or something.
Yeah. You
Maybe.
have the DeLorean.
Yeah. Hey, I would not be here if I had that.
You got anything else before we wrap it up?
I'm good.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in. That will do it for another episode of Hog Talk Podcast. Again, thanks to all the listeners. Thanks to all the sponsors. And we will come back to you on Thursday.